Good day and welcome back. This is week 2 of our grammar topics, and this will be the final week on basic grammar. I just want to mention that although this might seem very basic, it's really important to get this right because this feeds into some of the more advanced topics we'll be going over in the next few weeks. For example, let's start with semicolons. Semicolons are not used very much in everyday language. However, they are used quite a bit in technical writing. They can make a sentence a lot more interesting. They can combine independent clauses that are closely related into a single sentence, and they're used with long lists. And I'll go over each of those uses individually, and you'll see in the links that I've provided there are quite a few more examples. So let's go back to the example that we started with last week. Most shield volcanoes are found at mantle plumes. For example, the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. So this sentence is incorrect. The way I've written it here, I have an independent clause with a semicolon followed by a dependent clause. This sentence could be correct if that semicolon were simply a comma, but there's a few different ways we can write this that are both correct and that flow a little bit better than simply having two sentences. So in the green box with the orange text, I say most shield volcanoes are found at mantle plumes, semicolon. For example, the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii is a shield volcano near a mantle plume. This sentence is a bit long, but it is correct. We have two independent clauses, and as you can see, they're joined by a semicolon. Another common use of semicolons is for long lists, shown in the bottom right. And you can see here that I've listed a few shield volcanoes, and each of these list items has a comma within it. So if I were only to use commas to separate this list, it would actually get pretty confusing because you would not really be able to tell whether Easter Island chili is two separate items or a single item. So by using a semicolon, we can see that each item is separated by a semicolon and each item has a comma within it. So for example, Easter Island chili, Galapagos Islands, Ecuador, Isla Tortuga, Mexico, and Kirishima, Japan. These are now four items, each with a comma within the item separated by a semicolon. And then on the bottom left, I've shown another example of using a transitional phrase. And I want to note that in 2 weeks, we'll be going over transitional phrases in a lot more detail. This is really just setting the basis of understanding how the semicolon best fits into it. So Hawaii and Iceland are locations of mantle plumes. Consequently, both are known for their volcanoes. And you can see here I've used the word consequently. There are quite a few more transitional phrases that we'll go over. I've listed a few on this slide: accordingly, consequently, for example, however, indeed, therefore. And what this does is it ties together two closely related ideas. Usually one is a supporting idea, but they can be tied together as independent clauses within a single sentence. This is much more easy and intuitive for a reader to follow than simply having two sentences which are both independent clauses, but it's more difficult to relate them if they're separated that way. So now go ahead and have a look at the links I've provided and take a close look at the examples in each of those links. They're all fairly similar, but it's really important to get the semicolon right because, as I mentioned, it does feed into a few of the topics that we'll be talking about when we talk about style.